Hello everybody, my name is Einar Prime and welcome back to the Cartoon Network Retrospective and Ranking, the Y2K edition. I moved to a farm, went to school, my sister was born, and I went to Italy with my grandparents, where a guy stole my grandpa's wallet, but he was nice enough to put it back in his pocket. But also, Cartoon Network exploded in popularity with around 50 shows.
Wow! Where's that again? Cartoon Network!
With some being my all-time favorite shows of all time. This is gonna be the most personal part of this retrospective, since I grew up with almost every one of these shows. And I'm gonna talk about all of them, except anthology shows like Bob Clampett and Popeye, and the live-action reality shows. Quinton Reviews talked about them, so we don't have to.
Also, if you wanna see more videos like this, don't forget to smash subscribe button.
Now, let us start with
Sheep in the Big City.
Somehow, I never felt this was a real show. Like, I saw 2 episodes when I was young, and it never aired again. I saw more Courage than I did Sheep in the Big City. After rewatching it, it's alright. If I didn't piss people off by not seeing Courage when I was young, I would probably be crucified for this opinion that I think that this show is okay. I mean, it's funny from time to time, but not that hilarious. To me, I'm not here to split facts. Yet. I mean, I liked some of the running gags, even though they never ran. Why did I even write this part of the script? That's the kind of humor the show is. Very on-the-nose wordplay, which I'm guilty of from time to time for making. A handful of characters that are noteworthy, like the sheep, who is a big mood, the farmer, the general, the mad scientist.
I'm not mad. I'm angry!
I don't hate this show, there's a difference. It's still a personal retrospective, so I'm not putting it in an S. I would preferably rank this A, because I should not be blind to something that is doing a good job, but that's gonna be the only time I'm gonna be nice.
Sheep in the big city!
I recently learned that the creator is a writer for the Cuphead show, a show I think is good, and I can see that he has improved. With that said, Time Squad is another show I barely watch and is very forgettable, which is this show's greatest sin. In concept, this show could genuinely be very funny with the whole learning history angle, a la the likes of Animaniacs or Hysteria, to all 5 people that remember that show, but I genuinely think that it only holds up on aesthetic alone. Man, you guys want to talk smack about cow arts? When you mofos can look at all these shows and tell me this era was any different? The characters they exist. Otto is an orphan boy who knows history and that's it. Larry 3000 is just that Star Wars robot, is voiced by that guy from Rhapsody Street Kids.
Shut that door.
Buck is voiced by Rob Paulsen. It is genuinely a very versatile performance, which I appreciate, but I have no thoughts on this character whatsoever. The first and final episodes are the only episodes that I remember the most, because they are both about Otto and the orphanage he comes from, and everything in between is just, hey look, it's Sigmund Freud, or hey look, it's Ivan the Awesome. Okay, I like that one since it was the first episode I saw. I don't know how much this show was liked by the majority, but for me, it's a C.
We did not copy their show, all right?
Jack was out.
Jack. Yo, Jack was Jack.
It's Candy time again with his best show. Again, I have not seen Primal as I'm writing this. This show is one of a kind for Cartoon Network in terms of storytelling and even the art style, though it's similar to Dexter, Powerpuff, and Time Squad, but still looks more unique. I'm not gonna retell what the show is about, because Mako does that every single episode. So yeah, the main character of Jack is best described as a reactionary protagonist, which is not a bad thing per se, as he does show off his quirks to be more interesting. But that is nothing compared to the antagonist of the show, Aku. He might just be one of, if not the greatest TV cartoon villain I've ever seen. The show is called Samurai Jack, but Aku and his present is much of a main character as Jack is. He is the ultimate evil that craves destruction and misery of the innocent, creating a world of fear and death. But he's also a silly goofball who can order a pizza
Extra thick!
or tell propaganda stories to children. It's hilarious. It's the perfect story of a world ruled by evil, and one man who needs to rise to justice against a world that is against him. And even if the show isn't about them, there are one-off characters and stories that are just as good, if not the best written stories. One being about Jack finding a robot bounty hunter, but told from the robot perspective, and it gives you big feels. The first 4 seasons are gold, but the 5th season, which came out 13 years later after the show ended in 2004 and was broadcast on Adult Swim, was interesting, but many fans were split on it. Unlike season 1 to 4 that all told one-off stories, season 5 is one overarching story that is all about reaching a conclusion of the whole premise. Which on paper, yeah, for hardcore fans, that is something we always wanted, but execution wise, 10 episodes may not sound that much, but these are 20-minute episodes each, where season 1 to 4 episodes are 11 minutes. Like, there are some aspects of season 5 I really like how Jack has ceased to age and has an internal conflict with himself, making him a fully developed character at this point. The introduction of the character Aki, she's a fine enough addition, who takes on the role of an antagonist but later develops into a protagonist. And Aku is still the same because Aku is perfect. It's just how these 10 episodes are paced makes it kinda weird experience, to be honest. If this was a movie, maybe I would complain about it less, or maybe everyone would complain about it less. Though honestly, I think the ending is perfect. I thought for a second, writing about season 5, I would rank the entire show A, but when I think about it, nah, it's a S. We got another twofer, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and Evil Con Carne, both made by Maxwell Adams. Grim and Evil both started as shorts that later on expanded into their own shows. Usually I go by chronological order in this retrospective, but I also added spin-offs, remakes, and in this case, a show made by the same guy and both fit in the same world. But in this case, I want to talk about Evil Con Carne first because I don't have a lot of things to say about this one since it's very short and the whole spoof of G.I. Joe doesn't go as far as horror. Like with Time Squad, this show drew me in only on statics alone, but unlike Time Squad, it was a fairly entertaining show since I generally liked the writing of Billy and Mandy. Frankly, I've forgotten most things that happened in this show, and one of the best characters in the show, being General Scar, later got integrated into Billy and Mandy, where he truly shines as the joke that he is. The others are fairly good, but with how short the show is, I generally think they would have also shine in their sister brother series. Is brother series even a thing? I'm just talking about how Billy and Mandy is better than Evil Con Carne, so let's just talk about that show instead. See, this dark comedy has made me smile so many times in my life. Some people describe this show as a lesser Courage, and I think that is an insult to Maxwell's work, as he wants to tell a comedy that has horror in it, as opposed to Courage that does the vice versa. The first season, which was the short for Grim and Evil, told more creepy stories with a creepier tone, as opposed to season 2 that starts off with a Harry Potter parody, and that became a recurring joke, and arguably that's the point where the show got its own identity. This show has so many great characters with one exception, Billy. He can be very annoying at times, and not in a funny way, but everyone else, perfect. The episodes are generally funny and just a good time altogether. There are some stinkers, but you can look past that. The show also had 4 TV movie specials. The first one, Big Bookie Adventure, is no joke one of my favorite CN specials. It has a chaotic energy of the show cranked up to 11 and serves as a perfect finale, with the characters having grown in their own weird, unique ways. Wrath of the Spider Queen is okay. It's an origin story for Grimm that does contradict the show just a little bit, but it's okay. Then there's the crossover with KND that was really good, though it has more KND energy. And then there's Underfist, the failed spin-off Halloween special and pilot that wanted to take the most popular secondary characters and make them superheroes, which is kinda genius, but I think it worked as a one-off personally. This show lasted 6 seasons and it became kinda tiring, but for all the flaws, I liked most of it. This is an A show.
Look at me, buddy. Look at it.
Life is like a hurricane here in
Town.
This was a CN show based on the 1977 lithograph, whatever the hell that is. The show tells a tale of ducks who live in a town of ducks, not that one, and them living in constant fear of being eaten by alligators who live in a town next door. If that doesn't sound like the most flawed allegory of race wars, then I don't know what is. But seriously, this show is about Bill the duck who befriends Aldo the alligator, who doesn't want to cook sentient ducks anymore, and just them living life in Ducktown. I used to watch this show a lot when it was on. I remember a handful of episodes that mostly revolved around the conflict of ducks and gators, which was a very out there idea for children show back then. But then again, any show that tackles any subject with some gray should be praised. See.
In the great hall of the Justice League.
It's time for a detective comic show, Justice League, and its 3rd, 4th, and 5th season, retitled Justice League Unlimited, are the 7th and 8th installment in the DCAU, which I have only seen 6 shows. Sorry, Static Shock and Zeta Project, I'm sure someone liked that one. This show was also my introduction to the Justice League and the DC world itself. You might say I'm a fan of this version of the characters as well. When I learned that the 3 of the founding members of the show were different versions, I couldn't care about the OG in the slightest. Hal Jordan is just a white guy who turned evil, Barry Allen is just a white guy who died, and Hawkman has too many backstories to a point that nobody can agree what it is. Honestly, Jon Stewart, Wally West, and Hawkgirl are arguably the best characters in the show, since they have the best mix of comedy and character development. Also diversity, but that's besides the point. Batsy and Soups already had shows for themselves and need to give the rest of the cast some screen time, but they still bring a lot to the show, especially Superman's arc, with his own show getting the conclusion it deserved, and Batman, although not as deep and rich as he was in his show, makes up for it with his coolness factor and genuinely funny moments. Oh, and Wonder Woman is alright, I guess. In comparison, I found her stories not that interesting, the exception where she turns into a pig, yeah, that happened, but I think she works best as a supporting character in the show for everyone else's stories. But my favorite character was and still is Martian Manhunter. He comes off as the strongest character, but still very vulnerable, a telepathic shape-shifting alien that is weak to fire. And if you're gonna argue that's a shitty weakness, have you read DC Comics before? Green Lantern was either weak to wood or yellow, Superman was weak to a green stone, and Wonder Woman, the strong female icon, was weak to being binded by her own weapon, by a man specifically. John Jones' weakness more relatable than anything. I mean, have you touched fire before? It hurts. The villains who have their first appearance in the show are fairly lame, except Ultra Humanite and Gorilla Grodd, who are both evil smart gorillas. A smart pattern. The only good villains are Lex Luthor and Joker, since they were pre-established villains and continue their story arcs from the other shows. Well, mostly Lex and his kryptonite cancer. Joker is just being silly as usual. The worst aspect of the show, personally, is that almost every episode is in 2 parts, with the exception of 3 3-parters and 1 Christmas episode. Season 1 has a lot of average episodes, and a few great ones, being Legends and Savage Times. Season 2, however, has a bundle of great episodes like Twilight, Tabula Rasa, A Better World, The Terror Beyond, Hereafter, Wild Cards, Comfort and Joy, and Star-Crossed, which is like all of Season 2. I guess it's just that good. But let's talk about Justice League Unlimited, which may be the best DC show I've ever watched. The main 7 may not be as much of a focus, since the Justice League has expanded with 62 members. Holy shit! Okay, so like 9 members are already appeared before Justice League Unlimited, with Supergirl getting a major character arc, and like handful of new heroes get one-off spotlights like Booster Gold, Hawk and Dove, and Captain Shazam. Others become new protagonists for the show, like Green Arrow, Black Canary, Huntress, and Question, who is the best. And then there are the rest who are just there, like Aztec, Vibe, Johnny Thunder, Elongated Man, and Sand. He's my favorite. The episodes here are now more The episodes here are now more episodic, and even some are follow-ups to the first 2 seasons. And there's also an overarching story about a government coup to take down the Justice League for what happened during
Justice League Season 2 finale and Superman series finale spoilers.
and another story about Lex Luthor's in-season recurring figure in 3 of the DCAU shows. In fact, Unlimited also has the greatest episode of the entire DCAU being Epilogue, starring Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond, that had a very traumatizing movie. Some fans have come together and said that Epilogue is more of a finale rather than a life and destroyer that feels a little rushed in some places. Imagine Avengers Endgame with just the action and none of the plot. Honestly, with that being the only flaw, I think both of these shows are just great and deserve an S.
Am I blue? Ain't these tears in my eyes telling
Whatever happened to
Robot Jones.
I'll tell you what happened. It was forgotten and cancelled. But how was the show? It's below average. That's it. Now, there are a few aspects of the show that stand out, like the titular character has 2 voice actors, and by actors I mean 1 voice actor, and a text-to-speech program because they wanted to emulate a robot voice,
I will not comply with that request.
but it only lasted 6 episodes that consist the entire season 1, and then was voiced by an actual flesh and blood boy, Bobby Block,
Greetings, school bus. I am ready to begin my human studies.
whom I personally prefer over this.
Good morning, Dad Unit.
Because of the unappealing appeal of main character being voiced by a voice machine, they decided to redub the first 6 out of 13 episodes with Buddy Block.
Good morning, Mom Unit.
Out of 13 episodes, I can only think of one standing out and arguably being the best one, called Gender, where Robot Jones learns in the end that
Girls and boys are basically the same.
gender's a social construct, bitch.
besides that, mostly all of the other episodes are generic school day life with your by-the-book morals at the end of the episode, where Jonesy learns more and more how to be human in his own unique way. The art style does stand out with its comic strip-esque style and the 70s music genre. The show has many different ideas, but makes a very uninspiring show, making the show a C.
Robot Jones!
Technology is just another thing to distract you from the real joys of life. Technology will kill you.
Green girl babies.
Hot take. Tiny Toons is better than Looney Tunes. With that out of the way, Baby Looney Tunes is a show that I don't understand why it exists. And every time I bring up Tiny Toons, they think I'm talking about this show. Ugh. You can tell I'm kinda bitter about that. Like the baby version of existing franchises is a genre that can work from time to time, and other times it just fills an optional quota that does not need to be filled. The Looney Tunes have been around for so long that they have almost done everything under the sun, and this outing is one of, if not the worst thing they have ever done. And what do I think? I watched like a handful of episodes when it aired, and yeah, it felt like there were other things I could have watched, like Shin-Chan rather than Lola Bunny in a diaper. But the worst thing the Looney Tunes have done? I don't know, when I think of worst thing Looney Tunes have done, there's a lot more I can think of. I like to point out that Baby Looney Tunes has an original character in the form of their babysitter, who is just some guy. His assigned gifts of a YouTube avatar who talks about cartoons. I should know, I am one. This show gets a C.
That's all, folks.
It's He-Man time! Before Kevin Smith got his hand on the franchise and made people angry with Revelation and a kid-friendly show that may be better than the Weird Eye show, but nobody cares about that because it's a baby show for babies. There was this show, and I watched it all the time when I was young. A very faithful reboot to the fever dream that was the Funimation show as opposed to the new He-Man. They even have those PSAs at the end of every episode that, even though saying it out loud, it may sound sounded clashes with the serious tone, but it somehow works. In fact, the premise of He-Man is tackled in more interesting ways, with Skeletor's origin, Prince Adam dealing with his secret identity, and other action figures, I mean the masters of the universe, exploring their own self-worth and if they are more than just gimmick toys, like Mechaneck was one of the toys I actually owned when I was young. Show writers having the balls to put Stinkor in the show. And although the whole point of a show like this is to sell toys, it never feels toyetic. Well, except that one episode where they just get super armor, and season 2, but we'll get to that later. My favorite character is Manyfaces, who just happened to have an episode that I recorded on VHS back in the day. It was an episode about him dealing with his dual personality. Also, he has many faces. The most traumatizing moment for me personally was the season 1 finale, cause I thought the show was cancelled, and it ended with the good guys losing. But no, season 2 was just never picked up where I lived. Speaking of, I did watch all of season 2 at some point, but I forgot all about it. Mostly because I watched it all on YouTube when that was a thing you could do, and rewatched it again reminded me of why. Most of the time when a show goes from an episodic format to an overarching story, it gets praised for it. But for the 2002 He-Man, it doesn't get worse, but just forgettable and even more toyetic. It starts to focus more on ancient snake people who wore Skeletor in one episode. And the show kinda introduces Hordak, who is a looming threat up until the show abruptly ends. Also, if Hordak isn't having an identity crisis and has an unwholesome friendship with Entrappa, then I do not care. The only memorable episode is an origin story, The Power of Grayskull, and the only new cast member introduced is Fisto, who can't wait to fist Skeletor!
I'd sure like to fist him.
That clip never stops to make me laugh. And as I like to repeat myself, the last season is not weak enough to drag down the entire show. I give it an A.
Kids next door, battle station!
I don't want to call this out early, but I think KND is my favorite show of all time. Mr. Thomas Edward Warburton first made his impression on me with Pepper Ann, a show about kids in middle school dealing with school stuff, and I recently learned that after KND, he wrote a children's book called 1,000 Times No about a toddler saying no. Man, I can't wait for that Umbrio project. I may be joking, but the fact that I'm talking about KND that is known for its grotesque nature, it may be the biggest turnoff for most people. But besides that, the show is stupid, but the good kind of stupid. Heck, the pilot is about the main cast fighting a codependent buffalo and walrus humans so they can swim in a swimming pool. Golly gee, were they smoking cigarettes when writing this? There's also the weird pilot Mr. Warburton made called Kenny and the Chimp, and I'm only talking about that because there's a character called Professor Triple Extra Large who was popular enough to come back to KND. Okay, now on to the show. The premise and the setting is whatever your dumb baby brain can think of as long as it's fun. Star Wars with birthday cake? Sure. Dystopian future controlled by girls? Okay. Dracula who spanks naughty children? Okay, some ideas are weird. Like, one of the villains is just trying to sell children as food. But despite how stupid and weird the ideas are, the characters all taken 100% seriously, where the most of the comedy or the drama comes from. But sometimes the show does get serious, and it works surprisingly well. My favorite episode is with number 5, actually dealing with the fact that one day she will have to grow up and get her memories wiped. The biggest highlight of this show being taken 100% seriously comes from Operation Zero, which like Big Picture Show and Big Bookie Adventures is also one of my favorite Cartoon Network movies. It has it all: action, drama, comedy, plot twist, and major feels. It might not be the series finale, but it almost comes close. The finale, on the other hand, is just as good, and the ending is just as sad. And even if the Stop the Galactic KND project won't go anywhere, I'm still happy with what we got. This show gets an S, and I can't think of anyone saying another what.
Codename Kids Next Door.
God damn it! Here it is, the other DC show that everyone loves for its cast, story arc, and very impressive but sometimes cringy anime art style, which was developed by the late great Derek J. Wyatt, who only started here but would expand his skill in other shows, but we'll talk about them when we get there. The best way to describe my thoughts on this show is to go through the characters and their arcs, which is kinda scatterbrained, but this is my retrospective, and I'll go on tangents when I feel like it. Robin, the leader and the least interesting member, gets his arc fighting against major villain Slade, which is the only version of Deathstroke I like. It's not that great, but a later episode, Haunted, was a better conclusion and made Robin just a bit interesting. Just a bit. Oh joy, it's Starfire, who is my favorite of the Titans, as in this version, not whatever the comics were doing. And despite there being 5 members and 5 seasons, he did not get an arc. Instead, we got Terra, the most controversial topic of the entire show. She follows a very similar story beat with a comic book counterpart, but made a little more PG because of stuff that happens in the comic, and she is made more sympathetic, where the most hate for Terra comes from. Well, Detective Comics made a Judas Contract movie that's more faithful to Terra's character being a bitch, so there's that. Alas, poor Starfire, who got more weird and interesting episodes out of the entire show, but did not get an arc. I recommend reading about the unproduced 6th season and still pray that it will be a reality and not just the voice actors tweeting about it. Cyborg is a lively cyborg who most episodes revolve around him struggling with being a machine, but also gets an arc about going undercover in a school for villains and fights the headmaster Brother Blood, a more vanilla version of Robin Slade rivalry, although I prefer Cyborg over Robin because he's cooler. Not sure about Brother Blood though. I may like him here over whatever the comic version or versions are. I don't read comic books.
Teen Titans Go.
Raven Roth the Goth, the most popular character with the most popular one-off episodes. One includes her falling in love with a dragon who catfished her, and the darkest arc of the entire show about her daddy issues and the end of the world. It's not just the stakes are high, but she, compared to the rest of the Titans, gets the most development out of all the cast. In fact, this arc even took some elements, by elements I mean Slade, from season 1 and made them better. Beast Boy, the funny animal man's mascot, who gets the most comedy-focused episode like getting a job, going inside Cyborg's body, or the finale, also gets the last and a very campy arc of reuniting his old team Doom Patrol and fighting their arch nemesis, the Brotherhood of Evil, which includes almost every villain who appeared throughout the show, and more importantly, the Brain and his boyfriend Monsieur Mala, who is a gorilla. Oh look, 3 gorillas. Look, the reason I go on a tangent for some of these shows is simply because I watch more and have more to say compared to those I have barely watched, and it only depends on my reaction to such shows. As you can tell, Teen Titans was one of those shows I watched that did get a big reaction out of me. There are so many aspects of the show that I love and some I don't care about in the slightest. Examples being 2 out of 5 arcs, some one-offs, and Trouble in Tokyo that I can only say was there to make the Robin Starfire shippers happy and inspired the Zone Time cartoon. The finale was interesting. I wish they had an ending. So yeah, great show with some bumps here and there. It gets an A. Now let's get controversial. Oh boy. It's this show. The legends of its infamy are phenomenal. When the writers of a spin-off show say that they never watched the original show around the same time the show's debut, it's gonna paint the whole experiment in a very negative color. Then they watched the show and the fans were pissed. I never watched the show around the time it debuted and blindly just listened to everyone around me say, "Arc, bad show, ruined my childhood." But then I got a little older, a little smarter, and a bit stupider and watched the whole show. And I loved it. Whoever tells you this ruined their childhood didn't have a childhood worth protecting. Or it's not like the original clearly hates you for having fun. It's a little guilty for starting a trend of remaking classic CN shows like Powerpuff Girls or Ben 10. But unlike Powerpuff Girls that tries way too hard to appeal to everyone and fails, this show knew what it was from the beginning and evolved to be in its own thing. Heck, even the crossover movie kinda makes up for the whole this is its own thing, I guess, if you want to argue about it. let's argue about it in the comments. Okay, I might agree that the show likes to go back to old episode ideas and even reuse ideas in the exact same show. Like, they go back to the Night Begins to Shine thing so many times, and there's even a rumor that it's gonna have its own spin-off show. Think about it. A spin-off show of a spin-off show of a show based on comic book. But I don't hate any episodes, even if they are not hilarious, which is crazy to me, even when the show's a little very fetishy. I think the first hint for me that this show was great was the movie. In fact, this was the longest gap for Cartoon Network to get a theatrical movie between this and Powerpuff Girls, and even did better box office wise. Originally, I wasn't gonna talk about this show because I don't want to talk about ongoing shows, since I think completed shows are easier to get all your thoughts on, but surprisingly I had more to say about the show. I might be crazy saying this, and I've said a lot of crazy shit, but I like this show more than the original. S for Suck It.
And anyone who says otherwise has a poop mouth with poop opinions. Well, I guess that settles it.
Dodgers in the 24th and a half century.
It's time for another Looney Toony Wacka Rooney spin-off Rooney Duck Dodgers of the 24th and 1/2 century. And out of all the experimental Looney Tunes shows, it's the third best, so that must mean I hate it. Well, no, this show's alright. It's better than Baby Tunes, I can tell you that. But it's a very weird show, as in, what is the audience for the show? Kinda weird. Like, the original Duck Dodgers shorts were good, but were they good enough for a whole show? Why did it go from Buck Rogers parody with slapstick with pop culture references with slapstick? Why is Queen Tyranny so hot? But I'm just asking questions that won't be answered. So do I like this show? Sure. Some episodes are funny and stand out for obvious reasons. The Samurai Jack and Tom Jones episodes are my favorite. There are no bad episodes, only funny or forgettable episodes. Only exception is Green Lantern, which is not forgettable, but not that funny. Just because I raved about DC doesn't mean I love everything DC. Foreshadowing. What was that? Anyway, yeah, it's a fine show. B.
Sex bomb, yeah, you're a sex bomb.
Thanks, bomb, you're a thanks bomb!
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars.
I don't like Star Wars.
Do you like this? Do you like this? Well, no more.
My first experience was with Phantom Menace, which I always dropped out around the middle part. I then watched the original trilogy, which I liked, and then the other prequel movies, second and third, which were some hot garbage.
Oh, I hate you.
Then came the sequel trilogy, that I've only seen once and have no strong opinion on them. Now there's just too much Star Wars shit out there that I don't care for in the slightest, except some episodes of Visions, cause I'm a weep.
I love anime.
Also, I don't think that you should judge one fandom, cause every fandom has some bad apples, but Star Wars does come very close. I've once or twice said my fair share of Star Wars opinions, and I've been told to my face that I'm wrong for having an opinion. With that said, Star Wars Clone Wars series is what most people have called the prequels done right, or at least in between episodes 2 or 3. And if I didn't care about the prequels movies, why would I care about this show? Well, some of my friends are Star Wars fans, and they are the best kinds of fans and friends one can have, and they recommended this show for me. The KND shorts are mostly visuals, and if you are a fan of KND's works, then you are gonna like that what you see. The shorts made General Grievous very cool as opposed to
General, we found the Jedi.
this. Good quality, but not much of a substance. A low A for now. The Clone Wars show is a whole nother story. Probably the best Star Wars stories ever written, or you know, the ones I've seen. And the most popular Star Wars characters spawned from there. Again, the ones I've seen. But for all the Ahsokas, Azes, whatever. Individual clones with names and personalities, some other characters get major progression. One example being Darth Maul, who in Phantom Menace was just cool window dressing, became a tortured and well-written anti-villain of the show. He even became a recurring character in Star Wars Rebels, a show I never watched, and I don't know if I want to watch, even though Maul is so ham.
Yes,
All the first 5 seasons are okay, but I feel like there's nothing going on. But the 6th season actually got more interesting with characters and their world changing ever so drastically. The 7th and final season that came out 6 years later after the show ended is just fine. The first arc is fun, but mostly a commercial for the Bad Batch show that I don't know if I'm gonna watch. I'm not making any promises. The second arc was kinda annoying, but the last arc is great. I'm gonna be honest, the Order 66 scene from Revenge of the Sith was whatever, but in context of the Clone Wars show, I think I like it more. When it happens in the movie, I couldn't care less about these random Jedis like Plo Koon, but since I got to know the Jedis and even the clones, it makes the stakes even more high. Heck, they don't even show us Order 66, but instead Ahsoka just gets a headache and just hears the voice clips from the 3rd movie, and for some reason I feel more in that scene than I did the entire 3rd movie. Oh god, I gotta stop talking about Star Wars, I'll go crazy. A show. Okay, I'm done. I don't want to talk about Star Wars anymore. I got lazy and looked up my Facebook review from 2016. I don't know how to end this segment. I imagine these episodes are based on that one Powerpuff Girl episode where they got a giant robot and destroyed the city. So all episodes are the Dynamo episode, and New Jersey is destroyed in every episode. These episodes are not to be taken seriously, as you can see. It's not that to say I expected something deeper like Gundam, because this is more of a Gurren Lagann. At first I thought this was inspired by it, but this came before, which maybe tells us something. The cast is okay, Coop is fun, Shiva is not very remarkable character for a stoic fish out of water. Jamie sucks. The only good thing about him is he's voiced by Steven Bloom and his future counterpart. The villains look cool, but nothing much to write home about. I really liked in the last episode. Best bad guy is Bruce Campbell. But the best thing about this show are all the anime and Sentai references. I'm not gonna go mention them all, so just look it up on TV Trope. Is that a thing still? Look, this is a very old script. I think these episodes are good for what they are, even though the story is mediocre and the characters are extremely simplistic. But the battle scenes and all the references are the best quality of these episodes. I've seen other giant robot shows that I like better though, but it has nothing against Mechas XLR. Recommend if you want fun and stupid giant robot episodes. B. So remember back whenever I talked about Powerpuff Girls, I said Craig McCracken was my favorite cartoonist, and I named some of his works like Powerpuff Girls, Wonder Over Yonder, and Kid Cosmic. Well, I did leave Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, which I did for a reason, but at the same time I kinda regret it. In fact, this was one of my favorite shows when I was young. I used to record every episode on VHS tapes, which I did with another CN show, but we'll get to there when we get there. It spawned so many memorable characters in design and personality, funny jokes, and even heartwarming or wrenching stories with a little tint of, hey, this world is kinda fucked. So why on God's green earth did I not name drop it when talking about Captain Crack McCracken? Well, for all the good that the show gave us, like cast, art style, writing, it also gave us some cringeworthy content, which makes me wince from time to time. Look, it takes a lot to write a character to make me hate them, and Blue is probably the worst thing I've seen. Like, I have given Eddie some bad time, but at least he is not dragging down the entire show with him. At least he gets punished for his shittiness, which was a big highlight of the show. At least the movie made him grow. Blue is actually very mellow and shy in the 3-part pilot, and that alone is enough to sell us on the premise of the show. And after that, he slowly does a 180 and becomes the worst thing about Foster's Home, and you start to question, why am I even watching this show? Why is he like this? Is it because the theory that Blue represents Max, who is a good boy, inner demons, something that he's not, something that he builds inside, but he doesn't have the courage to, show it? It's even brought up in one of the best special episodes, Goodwill Hunting, that imaginary friends, personalities, represent something deep within their creator. That does sound interesting, but still, is that a good enough excuse to make Blue such a prick? As for others that fans like to point fingers at for being just as worse, Mr. Mr. Harriman. He's hilarious. Shut up! Duchess, she does not appear that much. She's, not gonna lie, that was me when I was young, and he has a special place in my heart. Bendy? Who cares? He's like in one episode. Terrence? Okay, close enough. Man, I just ranted about Blue for a hot minute. But still, I like the show despite its flaws. All the characters are just mwah, peak perfection. Mac is a good boy, and the fact that the whole show is about him hanging around the foster home so that nobody adopts Blue because he doesn't have any human friends is just the saddest thing. Wild kind of represents how I live my life, and he has by far the best TV special which revolves around his origins. Eduardo is Tom Kenny doing his Spanish accent, and we'll look past that because he's so cute. Coco is Coco. And then there's Frankie, who inspired another Sontan cartoon. Oh, and she also has a TV special which I just view as a finale as opposed to the fairly mediocre finale that is only notable for referencing the intro in reverse. With these factors, I want to love the show more, but for some reason it favors the worst aspects more than the quality stuff. Fun fact, this show is where I learned what irony is, and it led to one of the funniest episodes of the show has to offer, or the carrot episode. That is also a classic one. It's kinda hard to decide when I should rank this. B. I'll give it a not to be confused with These Batman, as he is forever tormented to be adapted till the end of DC not giving a crap no more. And look, seeing something familiar done from another person's perspective is always gonna be controversial, and as much as we all love Batman the animated series, we should not shun the works of others as inferior. Now let's discuss The Batman, the show that's best known for having Jackie Chan adventure artist Jeff Masuda as an art director, which led to some out there designs for the classic Batman rogue gallery, from Goth Riddler, Goblin Joker, Ben 10 Alien, Bane, the Penguin who is agile like that one guy from Cowboy Bebop, what was his name again, something French, and many others. The show is also infamous for an act called the Bat Embargo, which is why Scarecrow, Two-Face, Ra's al Ghul are not in the show. Also Mad Hatter, because Dark Knight Rises was gonna have him instead of Bane, so now you know that. Oh, and the Joker's immune to the Bat Embargo because he's the Joker, baby. Alright, I was talking about the show. First two seasons are the most interesting take on Batman by giving him a new cast of supporting characters, most of them being cops. Most of the villains are your classic Bat villains, or Bat villains that have never appeared before in cartoons, like Cluemaster, the poor man's Riddler, and Ragdoll, the poor man's Scarecrow. But the new supporting cast of various ethnicities gave the show a unique identity. Breakout characters being Ellen Yin, who looks like that cop girl from the Gargoyles, and Ethan Bennett, who, spoiler for a 2005 show, becomes Clayface, whose two-part episodes are great, but not as great as the Matt Hagen from the animated series. That shit was terrifying. Anyway, season 3 and onward decided to drop all the new characters, and bam, here's Jim Gordon, Barbara the Batgirl, and later Robin, who looks very like his Teen Titan counterpart. That's where the show kinda loses me, but fortunately, they do continue to hold my attention. It's only in season 5 where they just decide to introduce the Justice League where I really lose interest, cause with the exception of Martian Manhunter, every member and their highlight episodes are very boring. One episode has Hawkman, whom I am deeply convinced can't be written interesting in any way from what I have experienced from him. And the finale is whatever, they fight aliens, I forgot their names. The show also got a movie, Batman vs Dracula, that has a scene where Vampire Joker breaks into a blood bank, and it's the funniest thing I've seen. As its own show, I like it fine. For a Batman show, I could recommend it to Batman fans, but if you are a fan, then I'm sure you have heard of the show. A very high B. Hey, remember Teen Titans? That show was great. It had characters, plot, art style, all amazing. One major highlight is the opening theme sung by the pop rock band Puffy AmiYumi, so wouldn't it be kinda head-scratching to make a show about the band? HiHi Puffy AmiYumi is a show about the fictional versions of pop rock duo Ami Onuki and Yumi Yoshimura and their ugly gremlin manager Kaz, who going on tours and fighting vampires. Wait, what?
Garlic!
Okay, I've not seen a ton of shown based on real people, with the twist being what if they were cartoons and did some shit. Closest thing I can remember is Punky Brewster of all things, and by closest thing I mean that was a show I actually watched. And this show was certainly a thing that happened. Most memorable part of the show for me was the live action skits at the end of the episodes, where the real Ami and Yumi just sit there being silly for 20 seconds. I don't know why, but in comparison to the actual show, which is quite forgettable, I prefer this. C4. I used to record a bunch of cartoons and an Icelandic comedy show about politics on VHS. Man, am I old or what? Those were 2 Nickelodeon shows, SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents, and 2 Cartoon Network shows, being Foster's Home and this show. And learning it was a CN show makes me happy, because I get to talk about it. Even though this show looks ugly as sin, the writing is horrendous, and the characters are deranged looking demons. The humans, not the aliens. I don't care. This show might be my guilty pleasure, which says a lot about my shit taste. I watched it so much when I was young, and it may not hold up today for some, but then again, I am not some people. Also, like in Johnny Quest, I am not bothered by the CGI. I watched the Donkey Kong show and loved it, though that may be nostalgia blindness talking. The humor is beyond deranged non sequiturs, and sometimes just loud noises. Characters with some weird quirks like Sailor, who's afraid of water and owns a candy store, Rich Boy, who talks to taxidermy dogs, and a random Napoleon Bonaparte kid for some reason. My favorite character is Swanky, and if I can recommend this show for one reason, do it for Swanky.
Nincompoops.
There have been so many weird surprises to me about what a CN show is at this point, and this might be the biggest one. A. Crypto, the currency, crypto, it's a pyramid scheme. Oh my, oh may, oh moo. Krypto The Superdog was the shit. Out of all the baby shows I talk about in this retrospective, this one slaps the hardest. Probably because I like DC Comics. It even was developed by Paul Dini of DCAU fame, which you can see in the Superman's design. Not Lex Luthor though. I don't know what's happening there. They are, however, not the highlight of the show. In fact, it's Krypto and his animal friends and foes that come in various designs and personalities, like Ace the Bat Hound and Lex's iguana named Iguanitus.
That's Ignatius,
Who is just an evil little guy, and both are voiced by the man, the myth, the Australian-born Canadian cowboy, Scott McNeil.
So many wigs, so little time. Let's see. Maybe something classic?
There's also the Dog Star Patrol. They are like the Legion of Superheroes, only dogs and better, don't at me. And the main villain, Mechanic Cat, who was very threatening for a little boy that I was back in the day. And he can really rock that dress. I don't have anything deep to say about the show. It's just a kid's show about good dogs being good dogs, and having one, if not the greatest theme song for a cartoon about dogs. I mean, I don't know, I'm not watching Paw Patrol. If you think I'm gonna have a bitch fit about a show for toddlers, then I'm not what you're looking in terms of video content. I ain't no cartoon reviewer.
And I think we should stop here. I know way too much about what people in real life do with cartoon princesses.
This show gets an A. The lifetime of Juniper Lee tells the tale of 11-year-old girl, Juniper Lee, who has been granted the title of Chinese word I'm not gonna try to pronounce.
Hey, Zongzi.
A protector of both human and the monster realm, so that they may both live in harmony from each other, while she has to hide it from her friends and family, with the exception of her little brother, grandma, and a talking dog. I used to catch glimpses of the show from time to time, and personally I didn't do much for me personally. In fact, when I watched the whole show through, there was actually a moment I really liked, and due to the abrupt ending the show got, it made it very frustrating that they didn't do much with it. While the drama of Juniper not being able to spend time with her friends is more touched on, not as frequently, the fact that she can't leave her hometown because of her responsibilities is something that comes up once, and it's very frustrating that they didn't do anything with it, cause That was interesting. If only the show wasn't busy with pop culture references and stupid hijinks that the little brother lands in and wasn't bogging the whole screen time, maybe something would come out of it. Like, I do like some of the characters and the whole responsibility angle. I can't say I'm fully in love with the show. There, I went through this whole segment without talking about that thing Jeff Good wrote. What was it called? Oh yeah, Puna the Fuck Dog and Other Place for Children. Here we have a rare case of I can't believe it's not SpongeBob genre. I kid. Although this show has another connection to Nickelodeon, as the creator Joe Murray made Rocko's Modern Life, which was a show ahead of its time and had some impact on how the show ended. I love this show. I used to record SpongeBob episodes back in the day, and to think a show could capture the same spirit as SpongeBob was unthinkable. Enter Lazlo, a monkey that goes to summer camp and has funny, wacky, camp-related adventures like saving Christmas or go trick-or-treating with his friend Raj, who's voiced by a white guy and talks like this.
No, Lazlo, I think this time he really needs us to help him by helping him.
Raj, why do you talk like that? And Clam, a constant reminder of how simple I was as a child.
Scary traffic cone.
Among them is a rich cast of weirdos and freaks at Camp Kidney who all fill SpongeBob-esque roles. I don't like the show for any extraordinary reason whatsoever. I just like the wacky, funny, and sometimes chills vibes this show gives off all the time. One thing I can say that this show has over SpongeBob is that it knew when to end. And oh boy, what a way to end. So remember that thing I said that Rocko's Modern Life had an impact on the show? Well, spoilers! In the last episode, it turns out the campus network was the clothes comes of the scheme to paint the clothes on them, which results in him becoming famous only for the rain to wash away the paint. And then the police arrived with Heifer from Rocko's Modern Life, only older without hair, and reveals the lump and knocked him out for the entire summer so he could be a scoutmaster because he's a crazy person. A tier. Enough said. It's a show about fire trucks. They do fire trucks related things, and that's about it. In the Icelandic dub, the orange one shares the same name as my father. For a CGI show with 2D animated backgrounds and humans, it's not weird and awkward like Transformers, Energon, and Cybertron. Hey, remember when I used to talk about Transformers? I missed that. I should do more of those. This retrospective may be a personal journey of cartoons that have shaped my interest and personality, but sometimes there are weird bumps on the roads that I have literally nothing to say. I'm literally just talking about making Transformers videos again, cause those were fun. I'm not gonna stop making them. I just wanted to do this project, and I'm glad that you are enjoying this journey with me. Yeah, the show, see. Okay, let's hope the next show I have something more to say. Okay, so good news, I have more things to say about this one. The bad news is, it's my gym partner's a monkey. It's jungle out there. My gym partner's a monkey, and I hate this show. I have said that I am not a cartoon reviewer, but I only say that because making fun of people who take this seriously is funny. If I'm gonna rant about this show, I at least want to form my opinion in a subjective way, rather than those who do it in a very cartoon reviewery way, but I'm tempted to. The premise is,
I used to go to a human school where everyone was the same. Now I go to an animal school because lion's my last name.
Interesting, but what we get out of it is not a lot in substance. The look is what you expect from Cartoon Network at this point, but oh god, I do not like these characters. I keep saying that word. Adam is very bland, and Jake, though not as bad as Blue, is up there, and the rest are weird school friend stereotypes that are all annoying in various ways. Emotionless smart gorilla, the dude bra snake, angry Latina toucan, and the giraffe who is
Thank goodness! There's no way Adam could be in love with a human.
weirdly horny for Adam. Some do stand out for not being annoying. Most of them are the teachers and the shark bully. I love that one. The plots of the episodes are very bad and unfunny. 99% of the episodes are just Adam and Jake, whom I question why they are friends. Maybe one episode was okay with Gilbert Gottfried, rest in peace, as a platypus.
Is it me or just my pretty face?
But that leaves us with 99 episodes and a TV movie that only takes place in a bus. And you have a show that I don't want to watch again. D for Die. That's right, I'm talking about all of Ben 10. All 5 shows, which is half of 10. Mathematical! Wait, we're not there yet. here is where it all started, when an alien device did what it did and stuck itself upon his wrist the secret that it hid. Now he's got superpowers, he's no ordinary kid, he's Ben 10. This is one of those shows with craziest lores that, surprise surprise, I know a little too much about. Casuals know what a Ben Tennyson and an alien is, but the true lore master knows that Kevin's dead. So when an alien mental devices are like this, he comes to the show uses Kevin with using Ben 10. So much started here with just being your average one-off episodic Saturday morning action fast that would later become more refined in its defining identity. I'm shocked that on a rewatch that I would like this show much more. First reaction, Ben was very annoying, but the more the show went on, he started to grow in a very subtle ways that I found very charming. In fact, all the characters are very charming. Gwen, Grandpa Max, Vilgax, Dr. Animo, and Kevin, who would become a much better character in the future of the franchise. But what every Ben 10 loves about the show was the fantasized Gwen. For the aliens from Forearms, Diamond Head, Heat Blast, and Spitter, nobody's favorite alien. They are so unique, and the ideas are never ending. My favorite was Ghost Freak, who scared the living shit out of me. It also had a movie, The Secret of the Omnitrix, that follows the trend of other CN shows movies by being epic, and a live action movie that blew chunks. Out of all the Ben shows, this might be the best one, which does not bode well, because I'm gonna talk about the rest of the sequel shows now.
Oops, I forgot to record the part where I say S tier. Now let's move on to a disappointing sequel.
The show then made Benneth the Tenth serious and dark. By dark, I mean it's so dark that I can't see shit. And it kinda worked for a time. First 2 seasons tell one ongoing story with few one-offs that took our characters into bold new directions. Ben being more mature, Kevin getting over his past and becoming an ally, Grandpa Max almost getting killed off, and Gwen not being fantasized anymore. I mean learning magic, which had been a plot point building up. It was so amazing to see this one Saturday morning cartoon grow up. Then season 3 happened and I hated it. Ben became this asshole that won't shut up. Vilgax returns with no fanfare and all the episodes are mediocre mess. This show also decided to do a drastic change and give us 10 new aliens to replace the old ones until they all came back. We got Swampfire, Big Chill, Goop, Echo, and Alien X. An alien so strong they nerfed him in a very interesting way that I kinda love. My favorite was Humongousaur and Brainstorm, because it's fun to say those names. We also got another live action movie that I don't want to watch. Yeah, I'm not gonna watch it. You can't make me. Man, the show started off so great and just turned for the worst. I give this show a C, and I hope this doesn't get any worse.
Look, Gwen, you have to treat a car like you treat a woman.
Go on.
No.
Ben 10 Ultimate Alien is the worst thing since my son.
There's so much bad in this show. For example, they continue to write Ben as this obnoxious asshole that I do not like. The one-off episodes are scuffed messes, like what if the 2 bullies had a YouTube channel. The show gets 2, count them, 2 long stories, with the former getting kinda retconned and the latter one focusing on the boring Ben 10 villains, the Forever Knights, by giving them a forced backstory to trick me into believing they are cool. The new aliens they add in are lame, except Clockwork, he is cute. The ultimate gimmick, where 8 out of 46 aliens Ben had at this point, and some of these ultiforms are Cannonbolt, but grey with tiny stubs, Big Chill, but he's red, Humongousaur, but he's green, and some other garbage. But honestly, the worst part of Ultimate Alien, for me personally, is that it doesn't really have an identity to stand on its own. You can show this and Alien Force side by side and you could not tell the difference. Heck, both shows even do this annoying thing where Ben says the name of the aliens he changes into in every episode.
Fire!
Even his ultimate forms. Like, why? It also had a crossover with Generator X, which was whatever. This show sucks. D for I Wanna Die. Here we arrive on the next best Ben 10 show. Many reasons, such as getting Derek J. Wyatt as an art director, being more lighthearted compared to the last two shows, completely retconned the plot point from Ultimate Alien to make up for its shit-ass story arc, and finally, Ben is not much of an asshole as he was before. This show is in fact a big fan service for Ben 10 fans alike. It's such a fan service show that we even have stories about 10-year-old Ben, which feels like a welcome pace at this point, but we also have tons of aspects from previous shows that are used better here. Examples like that one-off show where the aliens accidentally fuse together, now being a gimmick for the future version of Ben. Even the stupid ultimate gimmick gets some justice, with the villain Avedo, an evil version of Ben who gets the short end of the stick. It's almost funny. And also the ultimate forms even look better than they did before. And yes, this show has multiverses, because even back then we couldn't stop milking that idea. The multiverse two-parter is notable because it introduced me to my favorite version of Ben. Ben 23, baby! Actually, it's where he never got the watch and used it better than the original one. It's kinda like how he should have been in Alien Force and Ultimate Alien. What I feel like is the weakest part of Omniverse though is its pace. It's either too slow or too fast, especially how story arcs are paced. They are numerous and happen very rapidly with tons of one-offs spliced in between, and it's kind of a mess. Watching it weekly maybe it would have been better, like I did with TMNT 2012, but marathoning it can kill the mood. Let's see what else is there. Ah yes, new aliens. This show introduces the second most number of aliens since the original, and they range from cute blocks, a sign that the franchise was running out of steam, a yellow guy that Ben calls the worst because he's racist towards Atrocians, and the actual worst. My favorite is Topic, because he's so ugly that everyone died. The end. I give the show a B. It's the 5th Ben 10 show, the 3rd Cartoon Network reboot, and from Teen Titans Go, which was surprisingly good, and Powerpuff Girl 2016, that was bad. How does this show stand out? Honestly, people learned their lesson and decided not to give this show the negative attention that 2016 Powerpuff Girls choked on by simply ignoring it. It's crazy that this show lasted longer and even got long TV specials, one being a Gen Rex crossover that I liked more than the first one. I know this is a Ben 10 reboot, but it wants to be like the original one, and with how the show looks and is written, did it pull it off? Well, that's the funny part. It's an okay show. It's what the PPG 2016 wanted to be, but successful at least. The humor is sometimes goofy one-liner jokes with occasional slapstick, but other parts it takes itself seriously, kinda like the original show, and it doesn't feel off-putting and or tone-deaf, but earned. Even Wildcats is written the same as before. It even has original villains. Well, one of them is just Vin Diesel from the Fast and the Furious movies that are not as good as the classic Ben 10 Rogue Gallery, but they far succeed the Powerpuff Girl 2016 ones. I feel like something that the classic Powerpuff Girls would come up with, and that's a high praise. Granted, some episodes are just the same episodes from the old show, but not as good, and some are just learning the lesson over and over again, and it kinda gets annoying. But as weird it is to say, this might be the 3rd best Ben 10 show of them all. Alien Force and Ultimate Alien may have its fans, but I'm not one of them. I give this show a B.
It's over! It's finally over!
Hey,
Made by the late Everett Pack, who made Duckman. And oh boy, if you thought Monkey Jim part was bad, well it still is, but this is close. This show feels like that one scene in Biodome where they're watching TV and a clown dies. What I'm saying is this show killed comedy, and yes, I did steal that joke from Nostalgia Critic. It's also one of those adult cartoonists making cartoon for the younger demographic situation, and unlike another case, it went bad. Rodney the Squirrel should be character I would like on paper, being voiced by Richard Horvitz, who is hilarious when given the chance despite playing Billy, who got annoying. Rodney is supposed to be a charming asshole, but they forgot to give him charm, so he's just an asshole. Only characters I like are Billy Westbully, I forgot his name, and Saltine Mike, his Hispanic parrot, but like almost everything in the show, there's so much potential here, but it's all squandered. The dad is played by Kurtwood Smith. How did you fuck that up? Also, I was curious about this, but did the whole show take place during the summer? They never go to school, only summer camps. The show came out before Phineas and Ferb, a show that did the summer vacation thing too, and if you think I need to tell you which one did it better,
But in the end, the worst part is that this show is not that funny. Like, can you call any of these jokes, if you can, a funny joke? But comedy is subjective or whatever. So this dreadful show gets a D. Here she is now, Ellen. Created by Lenny Squartz, who also created Kappa Mikey, a show I have not seen and have heard not so great things about it. Comes a preschool show about a girl and her imagination. Like if you have seen Dora the Explorer, then this show is just that. Ellen is adorable, the episodes are short, quick, and can even be funny from time to time.
Miss Flomans was really thankful that I was gonna help her.
Oh!
Yeah, that's it. B. Look, these are not that easy to write, okay? If you have thesis about Ellen's Acres, then feel free to tell me about it in the comments. Let's move on to something else. We now have a musical, a show about a former musician becoming a music teacher and his students learning about music and doing other crazy music or non-music related shenanigans. Yeah, they just got the rights to Andre 3000 music and wrote around it, and for the most part it was fun, but the show got cancelled due to copyright stuff, which is a shame because despite the very loose premise, the music is excellent. Every episode has a song that's animated in a beautiful and unique style, in the spirit of Cartoon Network groovies. Remember those? I used them as background music in part 1. My favorites being Throwdown and All We Want Is Your Soul. Oh, and the characters are pretty fun. Every kid, with the exception of the twins and Little D, are a fun little bunch. Madison is the best girl, Philly is best boy, and Principal Luna is fantastic. I don't particularly like this show, but do check out the animated songs. They are some S-tier stuff. But I give this show a B. The classic movie franchise that made us go, no, we don't want another sequel, spawned a TV show. Fun fact, the last Land Before Time movie came out in 2016, and the movie before that in 2007, which was the same year this show came out. That lasted until 2008, which meant this was the last Land Before Time thing during the 2000s. Okay, so I've watched almost all the Land Before Time sequels back in the day, except like 2 or 3, I don't know, I'm not gonna watch them all again, leave me alone. The ones I remember the most were the original, Journey Through the Mist, The Mysterious Island, The Stone of Cold Fire, and the Invasion of Tinosauruses. They made a new character for the show called Ruby, who is an oviraptor. I didn't watch the show. See for yourself.
If you don't like it, feel free to shove it.
Oh my god, this show is whack! We all can come together and agree that Roger Rabbit was a phenomenal movie, and everything that copied the idea ranged from "this is fine" to "please stop." How do you think pitching the idea for the show went? Okay, so we got alien sister, astronaut mother, a dad who should not be working in a school.
Ooh, I wish I had a big strong man.
And cartoon live inside a boy's head after getting hit by a train at a not Disneyland. Great, what's the story? He goes to school and does boring school things. I remember like 2 episodes and a pilot movie where the idiot best friend who is Asian as opposed to in the show where he's black. Also the train scene that leads to a surgery done by the mascot at the not Disneyland, and one of them is an old guy who keeps the brain of the animation legend not Walt Disney in his lunchbox, and you can see where this is all going. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say this was Cartoon Network's attempt to replicate a preteen comedy sitcom a la the likes of Disney and Nickelodeon, which has their fans. I'm not one of them. I did watch scary amount of iCarly and Victorious though, and that was enough for my lifetime. I guess Cartoon Network did put a spin on the idea with cartoons, but like isekai anime, a gimmick is not gonna get me to watch it ever. The best character is the villain, who is the son of not Walt Disney, who lives in Jimmy's basement and wants to steal the cartoons by lobotomizing him. I wish I was lobotomized. D for Jesus Christ, make it stop! We reach another SpongeBob-inspired show made by C.H. Greenblatt, who worked on SpongeBob for a time and even made a show for Nickelodeon, Harvey Beaks, which Nick cancelled without telling him. Smooth moves, Nick. That's almost as good as your Halloween commercial. Anyway, Chowder is a blast. It's just as good as Lazlo, if not greater, with its inventive premise about made-up food, impressive art direction, and different animation style. Has funny little gags. Characters just as charming and unforgettable. like Chowder, Mung, Gazpacho, played by Dana Snyder, Master Shakefang, Snitzel, who we all can relate to, and a puppet of C.H. Greenblatt, who lives in the clouds and oversees everything like the god he is. Also, all the funny jokes this show throws at us are just, chef kiss. Get it? Because it's a show about food. My favorite joke is one where they spend so much money that they run out of animation and the voice actors have to make money via car wash, as it's both a genius fourth wall breaking and just a charming wholesome imagery altogether. If you haven't watched the show, then I'm telling you, you are missing out, and compared to the last few shows that came before, this is a gold nugget. I give this a For those who don't know, I went to art school and discovered the magic of video editing. I used this talent to make a video about my favorite movie of all time, Transformers. No, not that one. Or that one, what the fuck? No, the 80s one with the action, the songs, the deaths, and all the quotes. That video is up for everyone to watch and be judged accordingly. And after that, I made more videos on robots in disguise, the more the meets the eyes. Then I decided to make this ranking retrospective that would take a while to make, where I would talk about everything but Transformer stuff. With that out of the way, here's some Transformer stuff. This show is the GOAT. Am I biased for claiming something so bold? No, I am based for telling the truth. Shinformers is both a made by fans, for fans type of show, but also a great starting point for newcomers. It has a dynamic cast of Autobots and Decepticons with new faces, familiar faces who have been reinvented for future incarnation, and a bold take on an icon of the franchise, Optimus Prime, who has been portrayed well most of the times, and others, but this is something different that surprisingly hasn't been done a lot afterwards. I give praise to David K, a guy known for playing various versions of Megatron and shares my birthday, for portraying this version of Prime. As I said with Decepticons, they're both familiar and new faces, but not many bold takes. We already did that with IDW Megatron and Armada Starscream, but still, they are just the perfect the way they are. The story here is amazing. Granted, some elements are references from older Transformers media with some fun twists, and the big MacGuffin is the Allspark from the Michael Bay films. And that shit will not get tired very fast, but besides that, it's great. But the boldest thing this show did was making a story where the human character is by far the most interesting aspect. The Sari Sumdeck, which I'm not gonna spoil, but she is the best human ally of all Transformers media. Okay, Fowler from Prime comes close, but still, justice for Sari. Also, that theme song, both English and especially the Japanese one. The show kinda shares a similar background with The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, where the majority of fans hated it when it came out for looking silly compared to what came before. We all call those people who hate fun, but unlike Wind Waker, the design for TFA was always an intended style, since they got one of my favorite art directors, the great late Derek J. Wyatt, who might have been the biggest Transformer fan of all time. There are so many cameos in the show, from well-known like Ironhide and very obscure ones like Grandis, who appears for like 10 seconds and I love it. Even when the show lasted 3 seasons, this guy continued to draw more Transformers characters that never appeared in the show, with some who were planned for the cancelled season 4. And after I read the synopsis for that season, it made me even sadder than the 6th season of Teen Titans. If you take anything from me in this whole retrospective, then watch this show and my Transformers videos. I'm really proud of those. They may not be as long as this video, but this franchise means a lot to me, especially this show, which I'm giving, obviously, an S. Thank you, Derek J. Wyatt. Till all one.
The Mr. Men Show!
Damn, yet another surprise. I used to read the Mr. Men books and watch the Mr. Men and Little Miss show a lot when I was a kid. I also caught a glimpse of this show, that unlike the books and the older show that focused on individual Mr. and Mrs., this show followed more of a variety show with every episode about a topic, like sports, food, ships. That one had a Titanic moment. Yikes. Also, it did not include those human characters that I never understood why these type of shows did that. The show is mostly funny gags with a gimmick, and if you find them funny, then I guess it's worth a watch for you. I think it's okay. B for Mr. Bump, who's the best Mr. Oh my god, he fell down the stairs! Call 911! I have finally found the most niche premise in this retrospective. A spoof of kung fu movies, but the main characters are chickens? Or I think they are chickens, unless they are racist caricatures. I have forgotten everything that happens in the show with the exception of like 2 or 3 episodes. One was about Jackie Chan chicken fighting a Cobra dude, and the other had a nun who might be the strongest character in the series, and nothing can convince me otherwise. I'm not gonna power scale the show, and that's all I have to say. I don't care enough about the show to go into more details. C for cock sucking chicks. Nailed it.
Flapjack! Hey, Flapjack!
Here is the ugliest show I've seen thus far, but that is like the appeal of it. This show always fascinated me for the weirdest of reasons. It's a very by-the-book slapstick comedy show with weird characters and the crazy stories in this fascinating world of sailors looking for candy. It gives me that cursed SpongeBob energy that appealed to me from time to time. I think I didn't vibe with the show as much as I wanted to, which is a shame because this show had a huge impact on CN as some of the writers went on to make their own shows like Over the Garden Wall, Regular Show, and Adventure Time. Well, one writer went to work for Disney and made a little show, you may have heard it, was called So yeah, I appreciate the show for its ugly yet charming aesthetic, Flapjack for being a little goober, and the finale that just decided to end like this. I think the show is fine for what it is and what it did, and I decided not to have a but in this sentence. I give it a B. Man, we don't have enough Cartoon Network cryptic fans out there because we made a show just for that niche demographic. Truly a tragic situation. In fact, this show is mostly remembered for 2 things. 1, Drew Saturday, the mom. 2, the Ben 10 Omniverse crossover where Ben is constantly drooling over the mom. I may not know a lot about cryptics with the exception of what the show has to offer, but the show gives off a very Real Adventures of Johnny Quest vibe, which I appreciated since I praised that show with an A. And just like Johnny Quest, my favorite character is Vivi Arcos, the main antagonist of the show, with how he talks has an impact on season 2 story-driven arc, and that he hosts a reality show called Weird World, which, not gonna lie, if that was the actual show, I would probably S-rank it. Not much else to say other than if you like the show, it's either for the cryptic angle or the MILF angle. B for
Batman!
Here it is, my favorite Batman show of all time. Although, even with Batman in the name, this show is more about the massive world of Detective Comics, with Batman being the main protagonist of sorts. In fact, there are very few episodes about Batman's world, one of them being Chill of the Night, which is probably one of the best Batman things out there, and another about Batwoman, who is not gay, switching bodies with Batman, which was hilarious. If you have never read a comic before but find the DC heroes interesting, then this show is just for you. The format even emulates the comics of old, with a cold opening that tells a short adventure of Batman and Hero fighting a villain. One insane one is Batman fighting the crazy Professor Milo, who uses mind control device on a nest of mice to steal stuff. So who does Batsy get to help him fight this low-level crook? Why not the fucking Spectre, the Wrath of God, of course, who turns him into cheese so the mice can eat him. There's also one with Abe Lincoln fighting robot John Wilkes Booth. It features many crazy heroes like Plastic Man, Blue Beetle, The Press, Uncle Sam, a German World War I pilot, and the haunted tank driven by the ghost of James Ewell Brown Stewart. Many crazy villains like the Gas Gang, Gorilla Boss, hey look, another DC gorilla, 4th time's the charm, Neil Patrick Harris, and Animal Vegetable Mineral Man. The most popular breakout character from this show is Batmite, played by Pee Wee Herman, who was reinvented from being a Mr. Mixius Pitlick for Batman to being a Batman fanboy who breaks the 4th wall, which leads to many references for all the hardcore Bat fans out there, and even a fun little anthology episode. In the last episode, he even got the show cancelled, The Fiend. If you are confused by the insane goofball mood since you are more familiar with the darker storytelling other DC stories, or just Batman stories in general known for, then you, sir, don't know that this show is based around the Silver Age of comics, where No Idea was dumb enough to be published, gave us some meme-worthy moments. Remember when Batman turned into a baby or wore a rainbow-colored batsuit? Screw your stupid battle armor variant action figures. Give me LGBT Batman. This show also made the weirdest of crossovers, one being with Space Ghosts, not of the Coast of Coast variety, and a feature-length Scooby-Doo crossover, cause why not? That's the third show to get a Scooby-Doo crossover. In fact, this one has 2 of them. Funny, exciting, imaginative, and gets an S.
I hate those squatties.
We finally reached the end. Jesus fucking Christ. And it's another comic book show. Again! But it's a Marvel, so it's different, I guess. If you ask me which I prefer, Marvel or DC, well, it's IDW because Sonic. But between the two, DC always has better animated shows, and Marvel has very outstanding shows like Spectacular Spider-Man, which I've not seen, but I've heard nothing but good things about. I am a fake Spidey fan. And X-Men, the animated series, which I watched a lot. There's also shows that didn't put a lot of effort in because MCU is the only thing Disney cares about, and some hot garbage like the Avengers show. So my opinion on Marvel in animated TV media is mixed. Spider-Verse, best thing ever. The Superhero Squad Show, or TISS for short, is a goofy show about Marvel heroes and villains being highly exaggerated caricatures with a MacGuffin story arcs for both 2 seasons. First being about the made-up MacGuffin for the show, the Infinity Sword, and second season about the well-known Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity Stones or gems, I forget. TISS is sometimes compared to Batman Brave and the Bold, both being a lighter toned show that pays great tribute to their respective comic franchises. I disagree with half of it, cause in reality TISS is a parody of the Marvel universe than anything else. You see, I know this because I watched the both shows. The closest thing we have to a Marvel's answer to Brave and the Bold show is Ultimate Spider-Man, since both Bats and Spidey can be argued in being the mascots of their both respective comic book company. Oddly enough, this doesn't have Spider-Man unless you count the video game. In terms of what the show has to offer, it has both the silly and the obscure of Marvel, like MODOK, who is silly, Reptile, who is obscure, Egghead, who is both, and some tributes like Planet Hulk, Marvel's 1600, and obviously Infinity Wars before MCU did it. It might sound like I don't like this show, but that's far from the truth. I like it a lot. A show with that great of a theme song is definitely doing something right. And if asked which Marvel show I'd prefer, this might be one of the top 5 in a sea full of Marvel messes. I like a bunch of the characters with how they are portrayed. Charlie Adler as Doctor Doom and Jim Cummings as Thanos is just a perfect casting. The squad is a likable bunch, and like Brave and the Bold, it's always fun to see guest characters from the comic book pop up. Like Flatman shows up. I love Flatman. He can stretch too. Even the characters made up for the show are fun. Yo, shout out to the best character, Mayor of Superhero City, played by the great late Stan the Man Lee. The story arc in season 1 is alright, but season 2 story does something bold with its second half. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's some good stuff. There are so few good Marvel cartoons out there, and this is one of them. A for Captain America.
Psych, I lied. There are more shows. They're all co-produced, so I'm just gonna go through them rapid fire. Here we go! Fat Dog Mendoza. This is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. D. Cramp Twins. My friend VFam told me to talk about this show. They are a big inspiration for making videos. Check out their YouTube channel. VV gets an S. Fuck this show. This show gets a D. Spaced Out. So boring. D. Now here's a show I've seen too much about. Do you like Foster's Home? Because I can tell this show does. Although Robot Boy is more likable than Blue, I guess. The best part is Dr. Kamikaze and Constantine, and the worst part is Gus. The only thing people remember the show for is the mom, and I don't need to explain anymore. C. Fantastic Four, World's Greatest Heroes. Out of 4 Fantastic Four shows, this is by far the best one, and it's also loosely based on the only good live-action movie, which there are 4 of. A. A quiz show with live-action kids, made-up cartoon characters, and troll drama characters. Did you know that most reality shows are scripted? C. My Spy Family. This isn't a cartoon, but I watched it. It's kinda bad, but it's so bad it's good kinda way. Hi B. The Garfield Show. I watched an hour-long video about the cultural impact that it had on the internet, and personally, I don't think I have anything interesting to say about the 2009 show. C. Casper's Scare School. Monster High setting with Casper. I don't like Casper. C. Gerald McBoing. Out of all of Dr. Seuss space shows, it's the remake of the 50s original show. I mean, either this is the least known or Daisy Had Macy. It's a boy who makes funny noises. If you like Police Academy movies, then go watch them instead. C. Stormhawk. This show has a zombie mommy villain and a green guy played by Scott McNeil, and the CGI looks very good, I guess. A. Best Dad. That's not my best dad. C. Johnny Test. Do you like Dexter Slap? Then watch that instead. B. For Bling Bling Boy. Total drama. I've only watched the first one, and the fact that the recent one is a baby version of the cast, I am not in a hurry to watch it all. C. George of the Jungle. Season 1 is okay. Season 2 is a fetish fuel nightmare. B. Hot Wheel Battle Force.
These are some hot wheels.
Yeah, I'm not watching this. Fuck this show. D. The Big O2, a sequel to a show I never was. C for See It Later. Immortal Grand Prix from Cartoon Network and the studio that made the One Piece OVA that no one remembers. It's a racing show with giant robots. I've only watched one racing anime and a movie based on a racing anime, and it's gonna take more than okay. Never mind. B.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Santo versus the Cologne. Santo. There, we're done. And you know, I think this is a perfect place to end. The 2000s, the one where I truly became a fan of Cartoon Network. Some shows are one of my favorite shows of all time, and nothing will ever change my opinion on them. And some shows are literal trash. See you in the finale, part 3, the 2010s, whenever that comes out. I don't know.